Good morning, happy Monday. If you live in London, happy ULEZ day. So today is the day that the extension of the ULEZ zone, ultra low emissions, comes into force. So here's the things you need to know. You need to put your number plate into the ULEZ checker on the TfL website and it'll tell you whether you're exempt or not. Most cars are exempt. Petrol cars made in the last 5 years, the last 10 years, are almost certainly exempt. Diesels made in the last 5 years, almost certainly exempt. But older diesels and older petrols probably aren't. £12.50 it costs per day to enter the zone. There's perfectly good reasons to do it, and it doesn't actually impact that many people. However, as in most people have cars that are exempt. However, things like this lump there, that is probably not exempt. An H-Reg Ford van. And people obviously on lower incomes who might keep their cars for longer are probably not exempt.
Welcome to another episode of Toby's Stupid Vlog.
So the system is far from perfect, and it also includes some very arbitrary roads like mine, which aren't a cut through but just happen to be north of the Mortlake Road. Anyway, I guess my point is, I think the idea is solid. I think you should discourage people with more polluting vehicles from entering London generally, probably all cities to be honest, but the implementation is crude at best. There should certainly be some exemptions for non-cut-through streets, for example, that are between the river and the zone, like my road. I mean, I'm exempt, our car's fine, but it's just dumb. It means that anyone who lives in our estate with an old car, it technically costs them £12.50 just to park in their own driveway, even though the road doesn't go anywhere, which is just nuts. And I noticed that they're doing sort of soft enforcement on some of these roads. They don't have cameras, obviously, but still really dumb. You could have just excluded a load of those roads between the Thames and the North Circular. So I mean the South Circular. I don't know, but anyway, it would have been much more sensible to actually bother to look at where the edge is and decide which road you're going to put it on. And also, people who can't afford it, I think there was a really good case for incentivising those people to use other modes of transport rather than penalising them for using their mode of transport that they happen to have. Yeah, anyway, there you go, ULEZ, great, isn't it? It's a beautiful day. In a week's time I'll be in Dublin, so I'm just beginning to come to terms with that. I am currently today editing a video for TikTok. Not that I'm going to put on TikTok, but for TikTok, the company, you know, the Chinese propaganda organisation, must have heard of them, and also finishing off the November Every Woman podcast. And then I should imagine at some point I'll get a last minute sort of emergency call about Red Bull, but I'm worrying about that when it appears. And then that's kind of, I'm trying to scale back my work a bit, certainly in December. You have to plan a little in advance for the potential house move that's going to happen. Look at the colour of that tree. That is excellent. So at the moment, work is a bit of a sort of management exercise rather than anything else. I've just come back from Richmond, got a few things. It occurs to me that in 2 weeks' time, we will know whether we can go to Berlin or not. The thing that's currently limiting us is that because of Amelia's age, she is not eligible for a vaccine, and she isn't simply covered because we're vaccinated. In fact, I think it's the under 12s. Anyone who's not eligible for a vaccine who is not visiting close family in Germany has to quarantine, but it's only for 5 days and then it automatically ends. And the only way to end that quarantine early is to have due cause to. So your parents are doing something important and you can take a test. So currently she is not eligible to do anything other than a 5-day quarantine, which makes the holiday pointless. That restriction runs until I think it's the 10th of November, and it's because the United Kingdom is a high-risk country, and we're a high-risk country because we have no safeguards in place and no controls and no restrictions, and COVID is just accelerating. So the German government can either choose to extend that or change it to something more sensible. Let's say, for example, she did a test 48 hours before she arrived. That would, meant that you'd know that she didn't have COVID. Anyway, but whatever. Well, the reason I mentioned Berlin, because I love Berlin, it's obviously my second home, is that wherever you walk around in Berlin, you can always see the TV tower. It's kind of like it was built in East Berlin, and it's very, very tall, and you can see it wherever you go, because Berlin's quite flat, and it's a good way of navigating, and it's how you know where you are to a certain extent. And it's occurred to me that we have an equivalent in Kew. It's not quite as tall and therefore not quite viewable from everywhere, but it's viewable from a surprising number of places when you just sort of look around, and it is the Kew Pagoda, and I will miss it when we are gone, because I love just looking around and seeing a massive ancient building, which you can just make out at the end of that road, actually, through the trees. There it is. So yeah, I just saw it as I crossed the bridge, and I thought, what an impressive landmark that really is. Good morning, it's Tuesday, and I have just been for a swim to New Chiswick Pool. So I was learning a little bit about New Chiswick Pool this morning from a couple of residents who've been swimming there for quite a long time, since the 60s actually. The reason it's called New Chiswick Pool, it's not especially new, is because before then there used to be like an open air Lido kind of affair, and when they built a new pool and put a roof on it, they called it New Chiswick Pool. And as is often the case when things are called new, their name just sort of sticks and nobody really remembers the old. So I'm heading home via somewhere that sells a croissant, and yes, I have a couple of things to do today, the same things I mentioned yesterday, which I was making reasonable progress with. I have to finish them today, because tomorrow we are going to the new house to do some measuring up and a sort of formal second viewing. That might seem insane on the basis that we've bought it subject to contract, but the market being as it is you kind of have to buy it before you can do a second viewing. Obviously you're not committed to anything until it completes, although we're pretty committed to this, if I'm honest. So yeah, we just need to know a few things, primarily so we can work out the kitchen and what we're going to do with it, because we want to kind of change it kind of quick smart and make it nice. But secondarily, there's a few things that aren't on the floor plans, you might imagine, like widths of hallways, and then little alcoves either side of the fireplace, just to know how wide they are and what sort of wardrobes you could get in there. It's all that kind of thing. It's sort of reasonably boring stuff, but important when it comes to like picking out furniture and things. We've been talking about tiling the hallway, all or fully. Haven't really decided. Looks nice in some places I've looked at. It's obviously not as warm, but you can clean it really easily, and it looks really smart. So we'll have to see. And just a few sort of thoughts around the shed, whether we can use that as storage, and the loft, and and we're going to take their surveyor's report and just have a look at a couple of things as we go. I remember walking through here many years ago. In fact, I think it was sometime maybe April 2013, going towards Hammersmith, and I'd been self-employed for 6 months or so, but I hadn't had a massive amount of work, just a few bits, interesting enough, and just about enough money to keep going. And it was a beautiful day, and the leaves were beginning to come out. They were bright green on the trees, and I was thinking, you know, the world's not too bad, is it? But I think if I'm honest, I was also thinking, I wonder where I'm going to get more work from and how I'm going to get paid, because it's very nice walking around in the springtime and everything. But, you know, actually you need to earn some money. You can't just be a gentleman of leisure forever, aged whatever I was at the time, 32, 33. And just at that moment, I got a text from the Heart Breakfast producer say, could you come and film something for Heart Breakfast, please? What's your availability like? What do you cost, etc, etc. And I thought, there you go, see? It all works out in the end. It's slightly wishful thinking, but it, you know, it actually has mostly. Anyway, that same person who was Heart Breakfast producer when I left is now head of audio for TBI Media, who is the company that I'm currently doing this TikTok promo video for. So, you know, that's I think why I thought of it. I've just been told that Amelia's German passport has arrived in the country, and that gives me a lot of joy in a way that I don't think you can ever understand. But in the same way as when I got my citizenship, it felt cathartic, not just for me but for the whole journey that my family had been on from the moment they were German previously to now, and this is the next step in the chain, and it fills me with real happiness. So anyway, so that's going to be posted out to us soon. I'm off for a little walk before I have to pick up Amelia. It's going to be quite a short walk because it's 3:20, so I have an hour and 20 minutes before I have to go. One of the things we're doing at the moment, as I mentioned, is trying to find a colour that we like for front doors, and not that. So I'm going around taking pictures of people's doors. Don't mind grey, but it's not very exciting. White on white doesn't do it for me. Wood has to be varnished. So yeah, what I want to have a look at is a colour that they use in Kew Gardens a lot, and just to see if my memory serves me correctly, or whether it's much more turquoise than I'd actually like. We're looking at sort of a lightish green, if you're interested, slightly a grey green. But these are all the silly decisions you have to make. We currently have like a demo floor tile that we've been sent to see what like giant floor tiles look like. So these are all interesting things. You have to realise that you need opinions on things that you didn't think you had opinions on. So I'm slowly formulating them. Isn't this nice? The borders are looking really impressive, despite the fact it's the end of the season. The last few flowers are sort of clinging on because it's been warm. This part of the gardens doesn't have a lot of colour. There is a little bit on that bush because there's a lot of pines and what have you, and some deciduous trees don't actually do a lot colour-wise. So like chestnuts and plane trees, they just go yellow and then brown. There's no reds, which always makes it a little bit underwhelming. But yeah, there are bits of the gardens at the moment, especially down towards the Marion North Gallery, that are really impressive. Really, really impressive. It makes you think, what kind of trees would you like in your garden? Or rather, makes me think that, in terms of ones that give you amazing blossom in the spring and amazing colours in the autumn. Trying to find the best of both worlds. This is the garden of our new house. Spoilers. The house is behind me, and there is some tree protection orders. I think that's an oak. I think there's one on that oak. And there's one on that oak as well. There's an ash down there that's on as well. There's a few oaks here. There's the house down there. We've come to Paynes Hill and we finally got into the grotto, which we've never been able to go in before because, you know, COVID and that. And they're doing some repair works and things. But it's quite amazing. Like, the roof is lined with crystals and it's got all these very porous stones. And then, that's interesting. You come out here. That's cool. Yeah, that's the bit of the grotto we just came out. They used to do Santa in the grotto because obviously it's a grotto and that's what. But they aren't at the moment because it's an enclosed space and they're a bit worried about large volumes of people. So no Santa this year or last year, maybe next year. Hi there, happy Thursday. So yesterday was good. We got to have a wander around the house, do some measuring and whatnot, and then a short trip to Paynes Hill. It's like a date day, if you will, because Amelia was at nursery. And I am now in the process of sorting out my packing for Monday, because I'm in fly to Dublin on Monday, fly back on Wednesday. Rock and roll, and it's going to be cold and grey and probably wet because Ireland and November, but still so nice to finally be able to leave the country. I just hope I get to do it again before the end of the year. Every minute that I'm not in this country, it adds a minute to my life. Anyway, I thought it was interesting to look excuse me. Toddler colds are terrible because they're constant and you get all of them. Anyway, so I thought it was interesting to look out the window this morning and see how few cars there were in the car parking spaces outside our flat. And this has sort of changed periodically over the last 2 years, but broadly speaking, if I looked out of that window pre-COVID during a work day, there would have been probably a dozen spaces, I would say. There's about 45 spaces total. There would have been about a dozen free. And then obviously during COVID there would have been none at all because nobody went anywhere and it was absolutely rammed. And now that people are going back to work, there's loads of spaces. I would say there's only probably 15-20 cars tops maybe in the whole car park because most people are driving, and it's just a really interesting change of habit of people going back into the office but not taking public transport, which is not great for the environment. It's not very helpful, but the reason that people don't want to take public transport, I think, and I might be speaking out of turn here, but I'm pretty sure it's that they don't feel comfortable on public transport because the vehicles are too full. There is no legal mandate to distance or wear a mask, and people have worked out after a year and a half what a horrible experience it is. So there needs to be some very radical thinking about how public transport is going to work in the future, because we need people to use public transport, and in order to do that the service has to be significantly better. But more than that, those in charge have to make sure that people on those vehicles feel safe, which they don't currently. What's in there? Yeah, what is it? It's a shrimp.